Tough to follow the act of Dale Romans, and I'm very happy to have my next guest, the president and CEO of the Fasig-Tipton Company, of course, the auction coming up this weekend, Boyd Browning. Boyd, thanks so much for coming.
Thank you, Andy. And it is impossible to follow Dale. I'm just going to caveat right now. It's impossible.
Why don't you tell your favorite Dale Romans story since you're up here? God, you must have plenty.
I can't. Most of them are completely, they're in the kind of the book that will never be written. Dale and I've got a complete understanding. I won't tell any stories on him. He won't tell any stories on me.
Now now we really want to know what's going on. I didn't realize it was going to be this interesting.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the sales. How long have you been with Fasig-Tipton?
30 years. I started when I was 6 years old.
Seriously? Still all 30? Now you're 36? So what was your job when you first started with them?
I started at Fasig-Tipton in 1988 as the assistant controller. Had no background in the horse business. Grew up a young child in Lexington, Kentucky. Loved going to the racetrack with my grandfather. We'd take 2 lawn chairs to Keeneland. He'd give me $2 to bet every race. And I fell in love with the game. Was a CPA in a former life with a big 8 accounting firm. And Fasig was relocating their corporate headquarters from New York to Lexington. Started as the assistant controller, and 30 years later, here we are.
And how long have you been in your current position?
I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years. Honestly, I don't keep track of that. You know, we've got a really unique organization. We've got a wonderful group of people that work there. We all do whatever it takes, and we don't really worry about job titles. We don't really worry about anything other than trying to recruit good horses and put good horses in the hands of men and women who buy them, and try to do a very good job of servicing both buyers and sellers alike.
And how many sales a year do you have in total?
We'll do about 15 sales a year throughout the United States.
Weanlings, yearlings, and 2-year-olds.
Yeah, mixed sales, yearling sales, and 2-year-old and training sales, and also horses of racing age that we've kind of added in the July sale mix as well.
How important is the Saratoga sale for you guys?
Well, I think Saratoga is synonymous with Fasig-Tipton. It's our flagship sale. It's part of our core. Next year will be our 100th year at Saratoga.
Wow.
We've been in business since 1898, but next year will be a special year. It'll be 100 years at Saratoga, and I think that Saratoga and Fasig-Tipton hopefully are synonymous with each other. Most years it's our biggest sale, and certainly will be this year when you combine both the main sale, Monday and Tuesday, with the New York bred sale on Saturday and Sunday. But it's our roots, it's our heritage, it's our culture.
Do you have a favorite sale?
Saratoga,
of course. Yeah. That was so easy.
No, I really do. I mean, it's you know when you get off the airplane, within 15 when I walk on the sales grounds, it's like a jolt of energy. It's like a jolt of adrenaline. It's like, man, I'm back, and it's a special place. You know, the cool thing for me is, you know, you go to breakfast or you go to lunch or you go to dinner, and you see 3 generations sitting around, kind of like Dale was talking about. Who do you like in the 4th? Right. That doesn't happen anywhere else. Even in a place like Lexington. Lexington's gotten, I mean, we're 300,000 plus people. Saratoga for these 6 weeks, 7 weeks is a unique place. It's my favorite sale, without any question.
I mean, as a kid, I love going. The first sale I went to was the night that Shoevy's foal, who became Tom Swift, sold, and that was also the night that Richard Nixon resigned. And they actually stopped the sale to play Nixon's resignation speech. And that was the first time I ever went to the sale in Saratoga as a kid.
Yeah, I can remember one of my first experiences was the night the Gulf War took place during the middle of the sale. So it was a real bummer in terms of trying to sell horses the night of the Gulf War. I can promise you that.
I imagine it. Well, that was that. Well, was there also situations in September? I guess. Well, the Keeneland sale in September after 9/11, right?
After 9/11, yeah.
Yeah, no. It's interesting to watch sort of the timeline and think about how things have changed and how have things changed. How long have they had 2-year-old sales, for instance?
Well, the 2-year-old sales really got started in the early to mid '80s. You know, maybe even a little earlier than that. The early sales were at Hialeah, which is still a special place. I mean, I go through Hialeah about once every 2 years and just can imagine what it must have been like in the heyday. Just looking at the architecture and just kind of imagine and envision and like, wow, this would be really cool if we could come back.
It'd be great. I go to a time machine to go back there.
Yeah, you really do. But so you know, we've been doing 2-year-old sales for heck, it's 40 years now, basically.
And how many sales, 2-year-old sales, do you have during the year?
We've got 2 now. We're going to have 3 next year. We do the Gulfstream sale in late March. We do the Timonium sale the Monday and Tuesday after the Preakness. And in 2019, we're going to be doing a 2-year-old sale in California in early June.
Oh, really? Now, would that compete with other sales out there, or are you sort of...
Well, I think there's not going to be a whole lot of other sales in California. I think we'll be complementary to the other sales that are conducted throughout the United States in the 2-year-old marketplace. And hopefully, California is an important marketplace from a racing standpoint. You look at the amount of wealth and the amount of people who are significant players in our industry from California, and it's important that we all work together to keep California vibrant as well, because it's a big part of the national racing scene.
No, I couldn't possibly agree more. There's a lot of talk about the fall crop and the contraction of the fall crop. How do you see that, how it affects your business and how it affects the industry as a whole?
Well, I think we've seen certainly a stabilization of the foal crop numbers in the last 3 to 4 years. Long term, there's no question, whether people want to hear it or not, we're going to have fewer race days. I mean, it just has to happen. There's going to be a smaller horse inventory out there. Regardless of why or what the facts are, we're seeing fewer starts generally per horse. So we're going to have to run fewer races. From a sales standpoint, it's really impossible. I've tried to do all sorts of statistical analysis, and I've failed. Does supply and demand, does the decreased supply result in increased demand? Hell, I'm not smart enough to answer that question.
No one is.
The reality is that I think from a business standpoint, we have to run our business based upon kind of like today's economics and what's in the marketplace, and knowing that it's likely to change next year. And certainly, I no longer do 5-year long range planning or anything like that, because they're not worth the paper they're written on, because circumstances change pretty significantly in our industry from year to year oftentimes. I'm
curious your thoughts on grass versus dirt. I mean, we're running so many more grass races in America than we used to. And I know you've thought about a sale of grass horses. It may not have worked out that well. But what do you think about, because there's some talk here from people, we have to develop turf sires. Do you believe in that, or do you think that we have the right sires, we can get turf horses?
Well, you're talking to the genius who had the inaugural turf sale in 2017. It's not going to be held in 2018.
Well, you don't succeed without failing, right?
But I ultimately, absolutely, positively, and maybe it's because I'm hard-headed and stupid and stubborn, I believe the concept was right. I think we were probably early in the mindset of the marketplace. The marketplace is ultimately right. I don't make the marketplace. We serve the marketplace. There's no question. We're seeing increasing levels of turf racing. 40% of the the graded races are run on turf. It's a trend that's going to continue. Ultimately, one of the most significant factors of turf racing that a lot of folks, like in my world, don't want to talk about. I mean, and we got to realize that we're all interrelated. But field size. You talk about the gambling aspect of it, and one of the reasons that turf racing is so popular and is so good is because the field size is larger and it's more appealing to bettors, which is more appealing to racetracks, which ultimately produces more revenue from everybody involved in a game. So it's here to stay, and it's going to continue to increase.
I want to talk a little about the sale coming up this week. American Pharoah is going to have foals, a lot of big Liam's Map, a lot of new foal honor code. Or talk about some of the new foals and how excited you are to see these new sires.
Well, I think you have to start off with American Pharoah. Shameless self-promotion. Fasig-Tipton sales graduate at Saratoga. Triple Crown winner, the first Triple Crown winner since another Fasig-Tipton sales graduate that you and Dale were talking about earlier, Seattle Slew.
Yeah, 17,000, right?
17,000, yes indeed. Amazingly, the first sale that we conducted at our facility in Kentucky after it was built. Yeah, Seattle Slew was produced, so it kind of jump-started the Kentucky operation in that regard too. But spinning forward to 2018, I mean, obviously the first crop of American Pharoah foals are met with great anticipation. Marvelous racehorse. Marvelous everywhere except here.
He was okay here. He was
okay. He just lost. But I mean, he was a tremendous racehorse. Great pedigree, great physical. He captured the hearts and souls of racing enthusiasts in America, and he was a special horse. So, sire-wise, spectacular. He's a very good physical, and I would expect him to have a tremendous sale and following this year. But it's a really, really deep first-year crop. I mean, you mentioned Liam's Map. You've got Honor Code. You've got Tonalist. You've got Carpe Diem. You've got Constitution. I'm going to get in trouble because I'm going to leave somebody out of this equation. But it's as talented a group of first crop sires that we've seen in many, many years. And the unique thing with this group of sires is they possess both the racing ability and the depth and pedigree.
Yeah.
They've got the kind of the complete package. Half a dozen, 7 or 8 of them. It wouldn't surprise us at all to be sitting here, 6 or 7 years from now and saying, man, what a spectacular group of stallions retired to stud in 2016. It's been a long time since we've seen a group of stallions like that kind of changed and reinvigorated, the marketplace to that extent. So it'll be really interesting. It'll be really exciting. And the yearlings that we've seen by these stallions, also they've replicated themselves in terms of the physical conformation. The one thing that doesn't work in our game, I don't care if you're buying American Pharoah out of a champion, if that yearling's not attractive physically, if it doesn't have good conformation, there's no amateurs left in the buying population. They're professionals. We've got to have horses with good conformation that are going to pass the intense scrutiny that the upper end buyers are going to go through. And fortunately, the vast majority of these first-year crop stallions have not only got pedigree, they've replicated themselves in terms of the physical conformation, and it should be a lot of fun Monday and Tuesday.
Yeah, I can't wait to see the Liam Map. He strikes me as a horse, speed and stamina. I mean, what you really want. He and Honor Code, who I just loved as a racehorse. I'm really excited to see those foals.
Honor Code was talking about pedigree, you're talking about a brilliant racehorse. I mean, he was the complete package. And Liam's Map, we're seeing the Unbridled Song sire line, and he's a little bit different physically. Unbridled Song was 17 hands, 71 long, tubular. Liam's Map's a little more compact. He's probably has a little bit more consistency in terms of the physical horses that he's producing. But they're good, and I would not be surprised to be sitting here, 2 years from now saying, can you believe, a son of Pharoah, a son of Liam's Map, a son of Honor Code, a son of Tonal, any one of those stallions, won the Derby, won a Triple Crown race, and they're going to be, could be one of the hot stallions that we're selling yearlings by in 2020 for sure.
Well, Tonalist is an extremely unusual horse in that he won Grade 1s at a mile and a quarter, and a mile and a half.
Right.
You just don't see that unless they win the Belmont, right?
Yeah, well, we've got another horse that's a first-year stallion I left out that did the same thing, Palace Malice. Met Mile in the Belmont,
yeah, right.
Son of Curlin.
Yeah.
I mean, you're saying, we're talking about these other horses, and here's Palace Malice, who most years you'd be saying, man, we can't wait. He would be at the head of the class.
And he's getting forgotten.
And he's getting a little bit forgotten. I mean, as I said, you couldn't have a much more attractive package going in than he presented, and so they sold really well in July.
Boyd, I wish we had more time, but we don't. We're out of time. Boyd Browning from Fasig-Tippin, thanks so much for joining us.
Dale took all the time.
He's a pig, that Dale Romans.